Yo, welcome back to another episode on Kinesis PT and Performance. Today we're going to be talking about hips.
I'm on tonight, you know my hips don't lie, and I'm starting to feel it's right. All the attraction, the tension.
And if I looked like Shakira and could dance like her, or if I just had Shakira doing this video, y'all would probably pay a little bit closer attention to the movements. But with no further ado, let's dive into this. So hips are a topic that are near and dear to me just because my own personal experience I've had with hip issues, back pain, and what have you. Actually, the first time I got diagnosed with a hip issue was my freshman year of high school, and I think I got diagnosed with a hip flexor strain, which looking back was actually the first time I experienced what we call FAI, so femoral acetabular impingement. Not knocking the sports medicine professionals I worked with at the time, it just wasn't as commonly known or talked about, and because your hip flexor's there, that's just what they went with. So FAI is something that is very commonly seen in sports medicine. It's the result of essentially a few different things. One, we can have a cam lesion where the femoral head is not perfectly spherical and it starts to bulge out a little bit. Or two, we can have a pincer lesion where the acetabulum is kind of built too deep, okay? So it kind of comes out, and the ball sits in the socket, and as the ball moves around, that pincer almost pinches the head of the femur in there, and we can get the capsule and the labrum kind of caught up in that mess. The third thing we can see, which unfortunately I haven't seen it as discussed as much in the literature, is a dynamic hip impingement. Meaning you don't have a cam lesion, you don't have a pincer lesion, so your sports med physician is going to tell you, no, you don't have hip impingement. But what's happening is the way you move your pelvis or the way you lack control of your pelvis is putting you into a position in which the bones are approximating. Again, what we call osseous approximation. So you're getting a dynamic impingement at your hips. And this can happen for a few different reasons. Myself, when I was a freshman in high school, this was happening during track season. So when I was running, I distinctly remember my track coach telling me my butt was always out behind me. So I'd get up into my running pose, but instead of being here, nice straight lines, what we'd get is my butt would be lagging behind. I would have lumbar lordosis. My pelvis would tip forward. So when I pull my hip up, I'm getting impingement here. And as we look at it from a frontal view, what's happening, because my pelvis again is tipped forward, I don't get adequate recruitment on my glutes, and my pelvis is going to drop on my stance leg. So I'm getting impingement here and impingement here, and I'm hanging out on the passive structures within my hip. Not a pretty sight. The other thing we see a lot of times is athletes when they're training for sports, so in the weight room, their squat or lunge mechanics are pretty off. So something that's commonly taught in high school weight rooms is when people squat to protect their back, they want to see a real big chest. So stick your chest out, it'll protect your back. Well, kind of, not really. As we've learned more about the way the human body is designed to move, that is definitely not a natural way to squat. Again, when we go into this position, we dump our pelvis forward. As we squat down, we already have ran out of space at the joint. By going into this big chest position, it would be like starting my squat from here. So I've already picked my leg up. I'm just flexing my hip from the top down rather than from the bottom up. So as you can see, there are a few things right there already, just in a couple basic movement patterns that can predispose you to some serious issues going on at your hip. That's without even touching on the gait stuff we talked about in the ankle foot video or the knee video. But those are also things we need to keep in mind. So in summary, what I'm trying to tell you guys is the way you control what we call your lumbopelvic complex is going to seriously influence the health of your hips. So lumbopelvic complex, essentially your core, or how your pelvis works with your lumbar spine and sits underneath your rib cage, okay? That alignment is going to change how your glutes are able to activate. It's going to change the alignment of your femur within the socket, and it's going to change what tissues or muscles you are using to find stability during dynamic tasks such as gait, running, or sport-specific activities. As always, if you have questions or comments, please reach out. And if you know anybody who would benefit from any of this information we discussed here today, please share this with them. I'm trying to use this as a way to inform as many people and help them not run into the same issues I ran into as an athlete. Thanks for watching.